I don't think I was going to cry in this video because I thought she was smart. She got out. I remember that Friday afternoon after her funeral, going home and just thinking, Brittany is happy today. And I'm going back to bed. And I'm miserable and my life is such a wreck. I'm never going to conquer this.
This video right here is why I do everything that I do, why I create online content around domestic violence, why I do interviews, why I did the segment a couple weeks ago on NPR and the documentaries and the thing that I'm doing for the Hulu executives. Everything that I do is for this reason. And in case you're new here, I'm Jenny Gage and this is Life Take Two, where I share how I escaped from Mormon tradwife life and built happiness on the other side. Welcome to my channel. Let me tell you a little bit about what's happening in this video that I have not watched for a really long time. And it's really, really hard for me to watch, and I couldn't show you the full video because most of it would violate every community guideline on every social media platform because of the darkness and the depression of the theme that I was talking about. One of my best friends had taken her own life, and my life was so miserable that I was jealous that she wasn't here anymore to suffer with the things that she had suffered with, and I was. And what hits me today, 6 or 7 years after this time in my life when this video was filmed, was that I didn't have any option for escaping my horrible, miserable life other than getting cancer and dying or having something else happen to me where I just wouldn't be here. I had option A, stay in my eternal marriage that I had made temple covenants to stay in with my horrible monster of a returned missionary husband, or die. There was nothing in between, and there are two huge reasons why I had no other options. First, and I know that all the Mormons are going to come after me on this and say, oh, you can get divorced in the Mormon church. You couldn't then and you still can't now. There is no allowance for divorce in the Mormon doctrine around the new and everlasting covenant of eternal marriage. There still isn't today. People do it. It's more culturally acceptable. But I had been married in the Mormon temple. I had taken covenants for time and all of eternity. And if I had divorced my husband, then I would have made myself unable to live with God in the celestial kingdom, which is the highest degree of glory in Mormon heaven. And I would have been making the decision that I wouldn't have my children with me for eternity. The doctrine of eternal marriage kept me stuck. There were days in my marriage when I was physically abused. There were times that I was neglected, abandoned, terrorized in other ways, when I would think in my head, I know that this is horrible, but I'm doing this for eternal life. I'm doing this so that I can be with my family forever. And I know that after we die, whatever's wrong with Jake is going to be taken care of by the resurrection, and then we're going to live in the celestial kingdom together, happy and healthy, and all of the suffering would have been worth it. From day to day, minute to minute, I was making decisions to put myself in harm's way so that I could uphold temple covenants that I had made as a 20-year-old girl that I believed to be eternal and of eternal consequence. The number two reason I was stuck in my marriage is that I got married when I was hella young and had never had a career, had no way of making money for myself. I had babies and this family that was dependent on me, and I had absolutely no way to escape. I needed health insurance. I needed groceries. I'm going to post a link to a Substack article that I wrote about the day 22 years into my marriage, which was right about maybe the same week that I did this video, when I found out that my husband had been cheating on me with sex workers. He was already an abusive monster, and then the curtain on his double life unraveled in front of my eyes, and I went into a psychosis and was in total shock. And I knew that I had to stay. And the moment that I decided to stay, which wasn't really a free decision, it's like deciding not to spring yourself out of jail when you know that the guards are going to come after you with the hounds and drag you back or destroy your life or somehow end your life. The moment that I bought into staying was because I was folding laundry in my bedroom. I heard my kids like doing their homework in the other room. And I knew the reality of the fact that for me to choose to leave would mean that I was choosing that my children wouldn't have food and that I wouldn't have that mattress. I wouldn't have the shoes in the closet, the ability to buy gas. And the unfortunate reality of my life is that for 3 years, I had to stay with that abusive man who had cheated on me. I did still believe in the eternal temple covenant, but I did feel like he had broken it at that point, so it didn't matter. And then I was stuck for financial reasons. I had absolutely no way to provide for myself. I couldn't even afford to hire a divorce attorney. I couldn't even afford to sit down and have a second consultation with a divorce attorney because I was a stay-at-home mom with nothing of my own. And when my marriage finally did end at about the 24-year mark, I was left with nothing. The reality of what I had feared on that day that I found out that he had had this double life would come true. And in many ways, it was even worse than I had ever suspected because I thought that I would have family members who would help me. I thought that maybe the church would help me. I thought that courts would enforce alimony and child support, none of which came to fruition. And I would go from living in $1 million homes and driving luxury vehicles and having the ability to buy my kids all the groceries that we could ever want to buy to sleeping in my SUV, bouncing around, couch surfing from one friend's house to the next while my kids were also couch surfing and not being able to get medical care, which would almost end my life, not being able to buy groceries, put gas in the car, take care of myself at all. The unfortunate reality for many women in domestic violence is you have a crazy husband who then becomes a crazy ex-husband, and there's nothing that anyone can do to make him provide for you if you have chosen to be a stay-at-home mom. That stay-at-home mom divorce from a crazy person is the worst of the worst, and I hear the stories of thousands of women across the country who've gone through the same thing as me, and it is a bloody nightmare, the stuff that movies are made out of, which is why right now my life is being made into a movie by an Emmy-nominated producer. You don't want to live the type of life or go through the type of divorce that makes for a good movie. There's a reason why. Like so many women who escaped those marriages, I left with nothing, and me and my children suffered. And that is why I do everything that I do. Every time I turn on my camera to do a video, I know that I'm going to get bullied, and I know that somebody's going to tell me that I'm wallowing in victim energy, or don't air your dirty laundry, or why don't you come back to the Mormon church? Your life is going to be better. But I know that there are young 20-something-year-old women today who haven't been warned that a man is not a plan, who don't understand that 50% of marriages end in divorce. Most people don't understand that while you're raising children, there's a 70% chance of major life catastrophe. That's divorce, death, disability, diagnoses, job loss of the primary working spouse, and then natural disasters, catastrophes, pandemics, earthquakes, wars, etc. Most young women don't realize that 1 in 4 of us will experience domestic violence, that when you become pregnant, your chances of your intimate partner unaliving you double, that the #1 cause of death for pregnant women in the United States is intimate partner homicide, not pregnancy complications. And I certainly didn't know any of that as a 20-year-old woman, but I know now as a 50-year-old grandma. And I just hope every day that I can share something with some young woman somewhere so that none of you are ever sitting in a car crying thinking the only option that I have is being stuck in this relationship or death. There is another option. It's a decentering man and being self-reliant and having responsible relationships combined with responsible finances. The secret that patriarchy doesn't want you to know.